Head to avis.com/techbee and save 10% off any reservation or $30 off a weekly rental.
Google has come out with its quarterly earnings, and they're saying that mobile is set to explode. The company's Android operating system has been installed on a few devices. Now they say that it's set to roll out on so many more devices that explosive market growth is all but a done deal. Is that really the case, or is Android more of promise and less of delivery? Let's bring on a couple technology journalists to answer that question. First off, Jason Snell from Macworld. Jason, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Also, we bring in Tom Merritt from CNET. Tom, thanks for being with us as well.
Hey, Randall.
So, we've all seen smartphone growth over this last year really explode. The Palm Pre, Android devices, of course the iPhone, which kind of started this latest smartphone revolution. Jason, what's your take? I mean, for the Android devices we've seen, do they stack up, and does Apple have a reason to be worried?
Android's a really good base operating system, but it really requires the phone makers to do a lot of extra work. It's providing the fundamentals, but then you've got to put a skin on it, and that's what Motorola is doing, and that's what HTC is doing. And I think it's a force to be reckoned with. The question is, how much does Google want to do, and how much does Google want to pass off to the phone makers? I think there's always going to be a place for companies that combine hardware and software, like Palm and Apple and RIM, but I think that certainly Windows Mobile, I'm kind of intrigued to see what happens there, and if Android can kind of kick Windows Mobile out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, Windows Mobile has been kind of on life support for a while now. Tom, I mean, what do you think, given that idea? It's really up to the phone manufacturers to really make Android useful. Does that even make it, a really useful platform for a lot of different developers? Or, when people look at the iPhone or, the Palm Pre, are those more attractive in your mind?
I think we were talking about this on Buzz Out Loud this morning. They've got to make it up in volume because people are enamored with the iPhone. I think they're less enamored with the Palm Pre, but it's only available on that one device, the iPhone. And so I think Android's plan is to spread out and get on as many devices as possible. That worked for Windows Mobile for a while until people started to fall out of love with Windows Mobile. Not that they don't still have their ardent supporters. And Android has got a leg up there. I think that it's still perceived positively. People like the idea of it. They haven't had that classic beautiful phone, though, to kind of lead the way. They need that, and then they need to keep going on all these phones. I think they're on 32 carriers in 26 countries. So they're starting to get that volume, and that's pretty much what they're going to have to do if they want to gain market share.
The real question for me that I've always wanted to know, do you think this really helps Google, Jason? I mean, I guess they're providing support to different manufacturers who want this, but ultimately the manufacturer could just take the core operating system and do it themselves. I mean, is this something that actually helps Google and helps the consumer who's using it at home?
I think there's a really good question about what Google's long-term commitment is to Android. They came out of the gate really strong, but by sort of putting it on the handset manufacturers to do a lot of the customization, you've got to wonder, is Google in this for the long term or not? And I don't know the answer. I think that it's interesting. The branding is weird. You've got lots of sort of with Google kind of branding where the services that Google provides in the cloud are the most important thing. Google has said they don't really want Android to be a brand, and that makes me wonder if Google's commitment to this is pretty limited to sort of saying we want there to be a base for all these developers who don't want to create their whole operating system on their handset to use. But what's the long-term play for Google in this? I'm not convinced that they are going to be behind this.
And Tom, when it comes to regular users, if Google's not necessarily everywhere on the device, obviously it's sort of this amorphous open source thing. Do you think people are actually going to see benefits as this explosive growth does or does not happen, I guess?
What kind of benefits do you mean? Like,
I mean,
just as an end user, am I going to?
Yeah, exactly. Like as a regular person, if I'm looking and saying, should I get this Android device or this iPhone? I mean, is the fact that there's so many users out there going to really entice developers, even though it's not a really unique thing like the iPhone would be?
Yeah, I think so. I think the fact that it's in principle, the fact that it's open source and the fact that anybody can develop anything for it, you don't have to make it through that Apple gate of approving whether the app should go in there or not, is going to be really attractive to developers. There have been some really great apps made for Android at this point. They're going to have to be on a lot more platforms to get that critical mass of developers to where they think, hey, I can make millions of dollars like I can at the App Store. But they've got that advantage. The thing that Google has to watch out for is upsetting the open source community. What they've got going for them is open source. Anybody can build it any way they want. That is both a disadvantage, as Jason has pointed out, and an advantage. And they need to play to that advantage. They've had some missteps recently where they upset their developer community, even their own internal developer community. And so they've got to be careful of that. They can't make this too proprietary if they really want to reap the benefits of open source. Otherwise, they end up getting no benefit at all.
Yeah, we'll have to see where this goes. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Jason Snell from Macworld, appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
Also, Tom Merritt from CNET, thanks for being on the show as well.
Yeah, glad to be here, Randall.
I'm Randall Bennett. Don't forget, you can catch us on iTunes. We're on YouTube. A special thanks to our sponsor, GoToMeeting. You can get 30 days for free by heading to gotomeeting.com/techpodcasts, and they'll hook you up over there. See ya.